Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you some of the weeds that I see regularly in the yard during the winter months, and I'm going to give you the solution that you need to take care of these weeds. Today's video is sponsored by Graham Spray Equipment. In my background you can see my 400-gallon Graham spray rig that I use for my weed control and fertilization business. If you need a spray rig for your business, go to grahamsc.com or give those guys a call. First, what I'll do is show you some of the weeds, and then we'll talk about some of the weed control products that I use to control these weeds. One of the weeds I see often in the yard, and I'm looking at a Bermuda grass lawn here, is this weed right here. Now a lot of people call this an onion. I believe this is actually wild garlic, and I can tell you a little bit of difference between wild garlic and wild onion. Typically when I see wild garlic, it's going to have a lot of leaves like this right here, where an onion oftentimes will have less leaves. And if you take the leaf and break it off, it's hard to see on the video here, but it's actually hollow inside there on wild garlic, where an onion is going to be a solid leaf. But typically the onion is going to be significantly bigger, not as many leaves, and when you break it off, it's going to be a solid leaf. So this is wild garlic, but let's just group them together. Wild garlic and wild onions are common weeds that you might find in your yard during the wintertime. I've got the solution for you, but let's take a look at a few more weeds first. Now what about this weed here? This one can be a little bit tough, and it's not one that's super common, but I have begun seeing it more and more during the winter on in the spring months. This is called field madder. Field, F-I-E-L-D, madder, M-A-D-D-E-R. And it will have a purple flower on it later in the springtime. But this is what it looks like. Grows low to the ground, and I have seen where this weed will just totally take over and be very common. It's a broadleaf weed, but it can be a little bit tough to kill. We do have a solution. And winter is also a time where you've got weeds like this dandelion that begin to really perk up. Now some weeds like this are just broadleaf weeds, not that terrible to control, but they like the cooler weather. And so when it starts cooling off in the fall and winter is when these things really start perking up. And as we get warmer toward the spring, it's going to probably really start to grow faster and even bloom with the nice recognizable yellow flower if it lasts that long in the yard. You can see here how the wild garlic, wild onion type plants can really take over an area, and there can be a lot of them in the yard. We're going to talk about that. And here's the example of one that I believe is an onion. So it's a larger leaf on it, and if I was to break that off, actually solid leaf here. Sometimes you can pull it up and see that big onion bulb down there as well. What about this weed? This is called Poa annua, also known as annual bluegrass. I'm in Alabama, and this is a weed that when I find it early in the year, it's not as easily noticeable, but as we get closer to spring, if a yard is covered in it, you'll notice that the yard will actually start looking green while the grass is still dormant because there's so much Poa annua in the yard. Another common weed here is called yellow wood sorrel, or also known as oxalis. I was going to try to spell that for you, but as I think about how to spell it, I'm not sure I'm getting it right, so I'm not going to. You can see it looks like a little three-leaf clover will have a yellow flower on it, but yellow wood sorrel. The last weed I'm going to show you before we start talking about the solutions is this weed here. This is called Dallas grass, D-A-L-L-I-S G-R-A-S-S, and it is a perennial grassy weed. So we're going to talk about perennial grassy weeds versus annual grassy weeds. I want to show you Dallas grass, and I'll talk to you about how to control that. So hopefully I've been able to help you identify some of the weeds that you're going to see in your yard. But let's talk about some of the weed control products, and I'll put some links in the description to some of these products. And just understand this, I'm a little bit hesitant almost to tell you this is exactly what you need to use to control these weeds. I want you to understand that there's more than one way to kill weeds in the lawn, and you need to begin to start understanding the principles of what we're trying to do and not looking for somebody just to tell you the exact answer on everything. Okay, so if you understand that, what type of weed is it, what does this weed control product do to the plant, and then it'll start to make sense to you after a while. I'm gonna try to explain it in as simple terms as possible. Let's show you the products. Again, you don't need to go out and buy all these. I'll try to give you some information that'll be helpful for you. So let's start with this product. This is triplet. Maybe some of you have heard of like a three-way product, or you might have heard of 2,4-D. So this has 2,4-D in it as one of the active ingredients to help control the weeds. So when I'm thinking about triplet or other three-way products, oftentimes thinking about what I'm going to use to control the broadleaf weeds. So you remember when we were looking in the yard, we saw the dandelion popping up. Okay, triplet's going to be great for controlling the dandelions. Matter of fact, it says right here on here, to control clover, dandelion, henbit, plantain, wild onion, I debate that one, and many other broadleaf weeds. So I don't believe it on the onions. I don't think it's going to do a great job of that, but it will do good on many of the broadleaf weeds. Now, the tricky part, when you spray that, you think, okay, I'm gonna spray this triplet, it's gonna knock out all the broadleaf weeds. Well, you remember I showed you the one that's called field matter, and I showed you yellow wood sorrel. Those are two of the tough ones that the triplet actually is not very effective on that. And the way to learn that is just from experience. If you spray yard after yard after yard, and you go back and you think, well, why do I keep seeing these two weeds, yellow wood sorrel and field matter? It's because the triplet does not knock it out. So we'll talk about a solution for that. Moving over here, we've got Resolute. So this is the active ingredient prodiamine, and you may hear people talk about spraying a pre-emergent on their lawn. So typically what I'm doing early in the year, like January, February, I'm spraying and I live in Alabama, so that time may adjust for you depending on where you are. So I'm gonna spray a pre-emergent like prodiamine, and I'm gonna mix in a post-emergent. So the pre-emergent, I'm trying to get ahead of the weeds before they germinate. So warm season weeds like crabgrass, for instance, is one of the main target weeds I'm using prodiamine for. So I'm gonna spray the prodiamine, and then I'm gonna mix in triplet in the mix, and it all mixes together in my gram spray rig, okay? So you got multiple products. Now, I've got other products in there too. These aren't the only two products, but if you had a pretty clean yard with not that many weeds, if you went out in January, February, if you lived in Alabama, again, adjust that depending on where you live, and if you sprayed prodiamine and triplet, you're gonna do a pretty good job of controlling most of the weeds. You're gonna knock out your broadleaves here, like henbit and some of those we didn't show you, and you're gonna get ahead of your crabgrass with the prodiamine. I've already used a pre-emergent herbicide during the fall months before the cool season weeds germinate. So you think about it two different ways. You got the warm season weeds, the cool season weeds. So those cool season weeds are gonna start germinating September, October time frame. So I wanna get my pre-emergent out before that happens and mix in a post-emergent. So I do that in the fall and do it again in January, February, targeting the opposite type of weeds, trying to get ahead of the warm season weeds but knock out any cool season weeds that might have germinated or any warm season weeds still hanging around the yard. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Now the prodiamine is excellent on crabgrass. It's not that expensive product, so I'm using that oftentimes this time of year. In the fall, I use this product, Spectacle Flow. This is a significantly more expensive product, but it's great on weeds like Poa annua. So we showed you the Poa annua, the grassy weed. It's the weed that you see me holding up in the thumbnail on this video. This is a great product to get ahead of that. So I want to put this out like September, October time frame and hopefully knock out a little bit of the Poa. Now, for me, you don't know exactly what I'm doing right now. I've got Resolute in there, and I've also got a little bit of Spectacle in there even in January in case there's some Poa that might germinate as the weather begins to warm up, let's say in February. All right, for the onions, let's talk about the wild onions, wild garlic. Well, if I only have a few onions in the yard, a few wild garlic, then I'm gonna go out with this product right here. I'll keep this in a little sprayer on my truck here, and I've got Blindside. Now, Blindside would do great at those tough broadleaf weeds I mentioned that triplet doesn't get, like the oxalis, like the yellow wood sorrel. Blindside's a great option for that. But Blindside also is a great option on the onions and garlic. Now, the onions and garlic, it may not knock them out like really fast, okay? And everything is gonna be slower when the weather's cold. It may actually be the next year before you just notice, hey, I don't have near as many onions popping up back in the yard. So don't expect some crazy fast results on these onions and garlic. But if I've got one or two, I'm just spraying it with Blindside. Now, if I've got a yard that's full of onions, I may mix this product in there, Manor, which is the active ingredient metsulfuron. Now, the Blindside has metsulfuron in it, mixed with sulfentrazone, and this is metsulfuron. So it's very cheap, extremely cheap, but it's a tiny amount, goes a long way. So you got to be careful with this. It's very hard to mix in this little sprayer like this, because the rate I'm using at is typically 1/4 of an ounce per acre, or maybe 1/3 of an ounce per acre. So let's just say I'm out spraying in January and I got some yards that's got onions. Well, I may mix it up and go ahead and put 1/4 an ounce to 1/3 of an ounce per acre in the tank, which is a tiny amount even in 100 gallons of water or 300 gallons of water. You got to be careful knowing how to mix it up, and it's not something that you want to just go dump without measuring into one of these. It's very difficult to measure for small batches. But very cheap product, helps control lots of broadleaf weeds. Also a great product for onions. So if I spray that in my round one mix, usually over the year or two, I start seeing less and less onions in the lawns that I'm taking care of. I'll show you one more product. This is called Change Up. I use it a lot. Sometimes I mix it in the big tank. A lot of times I keep it in a pump up sprayer. I can put 3/4 an ounce per gallon of water in a little handheld sprayer. And this is a great product for those tough broadleaf weeds that the triplet doesn't get. Now it'll kill the ones the triplet does get too, but great for field matter, great for yellow wood sorrel, great on the dandelions, henbit, all the broadleaf weeds. This is a great product to use for that. As we approach springtime, sometimes I get calls from customers. They say, hey Jason, my kids are running around barefooted, or my dogs, and they're getting little spurs in their feet. You got this lawn burrweed. It's a little tiny weed. Those are cool season weeds. We need to get ahead of those with our fall pre-emergent if we can, or if you're gonna spray it out, you might use a product like Change Up and try to control it early in the year, January, February, before they start putting the little burrs on them that really hurt when they get in your feet. I didn't teach you everything, but I hopefully gave you a little bit of a strategy of what we're trying to accomplish. I'm trying to get my pre-emergent out, get ahead of warm season weeds. I'm also trying to put some post-emergence in there to get rid of any existing weeds, but there's some that are tough. It might take a specialty product. Lastly, you got weeds like Dallas grass, a tough perennial weed, very difficult to control. This is a great time to go after those weeds. If I have a dormant Bermuda lawn, I'll keep some glyphosate on my truck and I'll go out and I'll just spot treat with glyphosate. At times you can even go out and spray the whole yard if it's a dormant Bermuda lawn with glyphosate. I typically do that 32 ounces per acre. That does not always kill the Dallas grass, but it can be part of a solution to get rid of it. And you might come back later with like Tribute Total or something to knock it out. Tribute Total, expensive product, a great product in the fall and spring for Dallas grass. Also a good product to control that Poa annua in the lawn. We talked about getting ahead of your Poa annua with your fall pre-emergent. If you get in the lawn, you might go with Tribute Total, you might go with Celsius. Probably the best product out there in a warm season lawn is going to be Revolver. That's for Bermuda and Zoysia lawns. Revolver's great, a little bit on the pricey side, but if you got a yard full of Poa and you want to get rid of it, spray it with Revolver. Want to mention the 2024 Lawn Care Life Conference coming up in February 23rd, 24th. Of 2024. We got a lot of people signed up. We've got some great sponsors on board. Crest is on board as a sponsor. We got Ferris on board as a sponsor. We got Yardbook on board as a sponsor. And we've had a lot of sign-ups toward the end of the year. The price is $229, and that includes all your meals Friday night and Saturday. Great lineup of speaker, Alan Hayden, Lawn Care Nut, myself, Paul Jamison, Naylor Taliaferro, Caleb and Brittany Allman. We got John Pajak coming. We got Jeremiah Jennings. Should be a great lineup, and I'll help you out here. The early bird special price ended at the end of the year, but if you'll use the code 2024, just put the number in 2024, you'll save 10%, and that'll make it even more affordable for you. Hope to see a lot of you there. If you want to get in weed control and fertilization like me, go to lawncarelife.com. That's also where you'll see the link for the conference. So whether you want to go to the conference or you want to buy the Weed Control and Fertilization Academy, go to lawncarelife.com or stay around and watch some more videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Hey everybody, it's Jason Creel, and let me be the first to invite you to the 2024 Lawn Care Life Conference, February 23rd and 24th in Springville, Alabama, just outside of Birmingham. I've got my friend Paul Jamison, Alan Haynes, Caleb and Brittany Allman, Jeremy Vest, Naylor Taliaferro, Jeremiah Jennings, and others coming, and hopefully you coming to this year's event. We've got seats for 300 people, and this year's gonna be bigger and better than ever. This is our 4th conference to do, and the early bird ticket prices is $197. That includes all your meals. We got a Friday night session, we got dinner, we got an after party, and we got breakfast and lunch on Saturday with a day full of sessions. We've got equipment to ride on, giveaways, sponsors. It's gonna be a great event, a lot of transparency, a lot of interaction, a lot of tips on how to grow your business, and a lot of fun. We hope to see you February 23rd, 24th, Springville, Alabama.
I absolutely love Jason and Tracy Creel. They have humongous hearts of hospitality. They host a wonderful event. I attended it back in 2020, and I'm really looking forward to returning to Sweet Home, Alabama for the 2024 Lawn Care Life Conference.
Hey guys, I can't wait to see you at Jason's event this February. There's going to be a lot of speakers giving as much value as they can, such as myself. as well as a lot of great networking opportunities. Hope to see you there soon.
Hey y'all, I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Happy to let you know that I will be attending the Lawn Care Life Conference in 2024, February 23rd and 24th of 2024. This is Jason Creel's conference. This is the 4th year. I've been there every year. I'll be a keynote speaker this year, going to bring you some fire.
I'd say there's no better place that you can go to get the tools you need to be successful.
Like-minded people, good networking.
I've learned a lot about growing my business more than anything here.
I tell you what, this place could not be any better. We got a lot of great information, a lot of great speakers. The food was awesome.
Jason Creel has done a very, very excellent job in presenting this lawn care conference.
Awesome to meet some of the guys that you follow on YouTube.
You're around like-minded people who also want to grow, and you're listening to people who were just like you who are also growing.
Definitely be coming back next year.